Hello, everyone, and welcome. You know, a lot of my viewers are DIYers just like me, and you like to be able to do maintenance on your own vehicles. If you want to be able to change the transmission or other fluids on your vehicles, you may find that it can be rather difficult to do at times, and other times it can be rather messy. So in planning for future projects, I decided to get this transmission fluid pump and extractor to make my future transmission fluid changes that much easier. In modern vehicles with sealed transmissions, you need a pump to be able to get the new fluid back into the transmission after you drained out the old fluid. So when I came across this 2-in-1 fluid pump and extractor from Vevor, I decided to give it a try. So if you've been planning on doing a transmission fluid change on a new transmission, stick around as I unbox and test this puppy in this video. Alright guys, so this is the Automotive Fluid Pump and Extractor from Vevor, available on Amazon, link in description below. At the time of making this video, this kit retails for $74.47, and the warranty on this guy is 1 year. The dimensions on the pump itself are 20 inches by 8 inches, and the pump itself weighs about 10 pounds. So what do you get included in the kit? Well, you're seeing everything in front of you right now. You get the fluid extractor, all sorts of fittings and hoses, the manual, and adapters. This unit has a 10-liter capacity container. That is more than most transmissions will contain, so it can easily hold all the fluid that you will drain out. This unit is made from corrosion-resistant materials, so it can handle all types of automotive fluids that you use it for. So you should be able to use this pump and extractor for transmission fluid, differential fluid, oil, coolant, power steering fluid, etc. This kit comes with 14 different adapters and a universal adapter for filling most sealed transmissions, like the ones in Hondas, BMWs, Audis, Mercedes, Volkswagen, Lexus, Porsche, Nissan, Ford, and many more. This unit also has a two-way valve that allows you to control for both fluid pumping and extracting. This unit also has overpressurization protection, so you cannot exceed the maximum of 43 psi when dispensing fluid and a maximum of 170 psi when extracting fluid. So this unit seems to be the best garage buddy any mechanic or DIYer can ask for. It helps you to drain out any fluid from your vehicle without making a mess. It also helps you to drain and fill most modern sealed transmissions. It holds a large 10-liter capacity. And one thing to point out also is that Harbor Freight does not carry any 2-in-1 pump and extractor like this one. So while Harbor Freight only has fluid extractors, Vevor gives you both an extractor and a pump in one unit at a reasonable price. So let's talk a little more about this guy and see how it performs. Alright guys, so let's go over some of the little details about this guy. Let me explain some of the things on here for you. I just gave you a real quick voiceover, but let's go into a little bit greater detail. So you have a lot of fittings and stuff here, and it seems to be, good quality plastic, nice brass fittings. Everything is nice and brass. Those are the connectors for the compressor and so forth, all that kind of good stuff. Nice rubbery hose there. These guys are the ones that you would use for basically putting fluid in and out of whatever it is you're working on. These have a nice brass connector that you basically would insert onto there to get it to work. And you have 3 different sizes of plastic. I don't know if you can see it there. Big, bigger, small, medium, and large. There you go. Small, medium, large. And these are rigid and they're fairly long. I mean, they are basically a little curved because they were in the box. But, I mean, these guys are really, really long. And what these guys are for is basically what you do is you can put those guys in the dipstick hole of transmissions. And that way you can drain it out through the dipstick. And that's exactly one of the things that I'm going to be using for. So those are great. If you have a dipstick and that's the only way you can drain out the transmission, that's what you use it for. It also works for oil or anything else if that's what you need it for. So that's very convenient. Now these guys right here are the adapters for all sorts of different transmissions. And it comes with this sheet right here, which is just a piece of paper. I'm probably going to laminate it. I think I am going to hang on to this because otherwise, I mean, you have the numbers and once you know which one is yours, you're done. But if you want to be able to keep track of it, it doesn't tell you the vehicle brands unless you look at this. So I'm probably going to laminate this sheet and keep it in here with my kit. That way I don't lose it and I don't forget it. But you have specific ones for the specific models, and then you have some flexible universal ones. So that's very convenient right there. And it comes in a nice little plastic kit. So you never lose them. You just keep them away in the kit right there, put it away, and you're good to go. So that is Very, very convenient and very well done. Now, as far as the unit itself goes, you see you have a pressure regulator right there. You have a pressure release right there. So this is your safety valve right there. Anything goes wrong, this little guy will pop off and release the pressure. And you have this guy right here, and it says right there, you have to control it one way or the other for extracting or putting fluid in. And same with this guy over here. And that's one of the things. I read a comment on the Amazon page that said that no matter what he did, he couldn't get it to work for him. Well, I kind of figure he probably forgot to do both of them. You have to do both the same way. You have to set them both to extract or both to put fluid in. Otherwise, it won't work. If you do one without the other, it won't work. And then you have to press this guy as well to get it to work. So all three things need to work together for it to do what you want it to do. So if you don't do it, it won't. And here you have your warning back there, and that's where you hook up all these different fittings and stuff like that to get it to do its thing. And that's where you hook up your air back in there to get pressure. And when you open this guy up, it's actually not badly made. It's pretty good. I mean, if you look at it, you have a lot of metal parts, right? And even the insides are metal. So it's fairly good construction, I must say. They didn't really cheap out. They give you some good brass fittings on just about everything. And then you have a long insert tube right there with a plastic one at the end, which is what you need. But you notice that it's all metal all the way to the bottom so that it won't collapse under the pressure, and it gives you some good durability. And this guy is pretty thick. I mean, it is a good thick plastic. I mean, look at the lip on that. That guy is really thick. That is not some cheapy little plastic container. That guy is pretty thick, and it has to be able to hold up to all sorts of corrosive material. Like I said, transmission fluid, rear end fluid, power steering. You might even be able to use it for brake fluid if you want to drain it out that way. But most brakes, you probably have to pressurize it. So it may not work for that. But just about any kind of stuff out there, you should be able to use it for that. So why did I decide to get this guy? Let's talk a little bit about that. Okay, so why did I decide to get this fluid extractor, which works for transmission and for everything else? Well, because I have two vehicles here that we're looking at, that each one has a different situation that kind of makes it a requirement for me to have a pump like this, an extractor and a fluid pump, to get the job done on these two vehicles. The Mustang, for example, has the sealed transmission, so it has no dipstick to it. So fortunately, they did put a drain plug in there, so draining the transmission is super easy. But filling it back up, you need one of those adapters right there to be able to fill it up. You saw there was one for Ford. So you need the Ford adapter to be able to put the fluid back into the transmission on this guy. And I'm getting pretty close to having to do a transmission fluid change on that guy, so that's why I got this guy. Now, the truck over there is the opposite story, if you can believe it. That being an older truck, it does have a dipstick, which is very convenient. It's not a problem. But unfortunately, for any of you guys that have worked with older vehicles, whether it's a Chrysler, Ford, GM, you know that they have one really annoying fault to them. And the fault is that they don't have any kind of a drain plug for the transmission. And some of the other things also, they don't have any drain plugs for the rear end and stuff like that. So basically, the way you're supposed to do it on these vehicles, in case you're not familiar, is you're supposed to loosen all the bolts on the transmission pan and then basically tilt the transmission pan towards one corner and have the fluid drain out into a pan. That all sounds really good on paper and in theory, but when you try to do it, it becomes a gigantic mess. And basically, even though you drain as much as possible, there's generally quite a bit still left in the pan. So when you loosen the last bolt and try to get it out, it becomes a nightmare of a mess. Trust me, I've been there, I've done that, I hate doing that. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to use these guys that I showed you right there, and there you can see how long they are. You can see those guys are really, really long. And what I plan to do is to drain out as much fluid as possible through the dipstick on that guy. And then I will loosen and drop the pan on the transmission on that guy. And I am getting also very, very close to doing a transmission fluid change on my truck. So that's why I got this guy, because these two vehicles will need some transmission servicing coming up very, very soon. Now, if you guys really, really want to see me do the transmission fluid change on the truck in the future, go ahead and comment down below. If I get enough requests, I'll go ahead and film it. Otherwise, I may not film it because it is a messy, annoying project to do. So I really hate doing transmission fluid changes. It's a necessity of life, but it's not something I enjoy doing. But if you really, really, really want to see me do it, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below, and I will be sure to film that when I get to the point of doing it. So that's coming up fairly soon, so I have to decide whether to film it or not. And one thing also that I did recently was I changed the rear differential fluid on the truck. And my goodness, without a lift, being under that thing, it is so annoying and difficult to do that my back was hurting for days after that, being cramped under that thing. And the differential fluid is like molasses in winter. It does not want to move. So that's another reason that I got this guy, because I said this guy should be able to do differential fluid just like transmission fluid. So that's one of the things that we're going to test right now to see if it can handle that as well. Transmission fluid is a lot looser and easier to pump, but if this guy can pump differential fluid, then it can handle just about anything out there. So let's test that out right now and see how this guy performs. All right, guys, so here we have this guy all set up, and I have it set on both dials here. I have it set to extract, and I don't want to have to go through and clean this guy out like 5 or 6 times testing different fluids today. So we're going to do a few proof of concept tests using just plain water, which is a whole lot easier to clean out. Afterward, I will do a test using some differential fluid, and that is the thickest that I can come up with. So I think if it can handle that, it can handle anything in between. So let's test it out with some water first and see how it performs. Like I said, I have these guys set up. I have the air coming in back here. I have my tank pressurized on my compressor. So let's test this guy out and see what it can do. So we put this guy into the water here and keep an eye on the water level. And there you go. You see that the water is pretty much empty. It took it all the way down to the bottom. Obviously, there's going to be a tiny little bit at the bottom, but that's just the way that goes. So it extracted it without any trouble whatsoever. Now let's change it over, and we'll put it to dispense, and we'll put the water from here back into here. Let's see how that goes. And I'm holding the hose because I don't want the pressure to kick it out of there, because it is pressurizing it pretty good. So you can see it's actually pumping it out much quicker than it took it out. You can see the water being filled up from here to there. So it's dispensing it quite well. And there you go. You saw that it took the water out of here into the container, and it took from the container and put the water back into here. So as far as dispensing or extracting fluid, it seems to do the job quite nicely. Now let's do some testing with some much thicker fluid. Alright guys, so this time let's test something a little bit thicker. So here we have some gear oil, and you can see right there, it's real thick gear oil. And I know the way things work on YouTube, if you don't see it, you don't believe it. So here we go. This is the remainder that I had after I changed over the fluid on the differential on my truck. So I'm going to pour it into here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it in here and pump it into this little guy here so you can see it, because this guy is clear, this guy is not. So basically I cleaned out all the water on here because I don't want to waste it. I'm going to keep this so everything is nice and dry. So let's pour it in here. And there you go. Look at that golden, delicious gear oil going into there. Very nice. Oh, the smell is wonderful. So let's let that pour into there, and then we'll basically pump it into the pitcher over there. So there you go, like molasses, nice and thick. So if it can pump this guy across, it can pump anything. So there you go. So that's the SDP gear oil right there. Let me put this guy back together, and then we'll start pumping. Alright guys, so I put the unit back together, and now we're going to start pumping it into there. Now, I have a feeling that the gear oil is going to be a little bit too thick, and it may overpressurize this and cause it to pop off. So I think it might be better to go in stages when you have something so thick. In other words, I mean, don't pressurize it all at once, just kind of pump the handle and let it go bit by bit. But if it can handle something so thick, it'll handle anything in between. So let's see how this goes. And it's pumping it over, and you'll see, I'm pretty sure it's going to pop off the security valve right now. See what I mean? So if you pressurize it too much, it's going to pop off. That means that the security system is working. But I think if you let it pump across, it is pumping, as you can see. You can see it is pumping slowly, but it is getting across. But when you have something that thick, I think you want to be more cautious than trying to do it too quickly. So it's better to just give it pressure, keep it pressurized, and let it do its thing. So I'm going to speed up the video so it doesn't take too long for you guys, but for me, obviously, it's going to be in real time. There you go, that's the last of it. That's a big blast of air coming through because all the gear oil came across already. So there you go, all the gear oil. If it can handle that, if it can handle something that is that thick, there you go, then it can definitely handle anything in between, including transmission fluid and everything else. So it did a fantastic job as far as I'm concerned. It certainly will help out my work in the future. So there you have it, guys. This is something that Harbor Freight does not carry, so Vevor is the best alternative for having one that pumps and extracts both at the same time in one unit. Instead of having multiple units around your shop cluttering and taking up space and room, this little guy can do it all for you, and you don't even need to hand pump it like some of the other ones. This one will do it all with the compressor air, so that should help it out quite nicely for you. So there you have it. If you're looking for one of these guys, check out the link below. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye for now.